Are 7th generation consoles worth buying in 2023 and beyond? Let's find out. As many of you may know, the 7th generation of consoles were released in the mid to late 2000s, the first of which was Microsoft's Xbox 360, released in November 2005, which was followed by both Sony's PlayStation 3 and Nintendo's Wii about a year later. The 7th generation era of consoles all had a lifespan of about 10 to 11 years, though this varies depending on the specific region you're looking at, as they were introduced and discontinued at different times. The 7th generation was a huge leap forward from the previous era of consoles. Graphics were becoming more realistic and lifelike, physics were dramatically improving, storage capacity had increased dramatically as well, and most importantly, the graphics power and CPUs of the 7th generation of consoles were all major improvements over their older sisters. The 7th generation of game consoles was also notable and renowned for having great backwards compatibility with the previous generations. For example, Xbox 360 users could play supported original Xbox games, provided that their Xbox 360 met the requirements to run the game. The same applied to PlayStation and Wii users. The Wii could play GameCube games, while the PS3 could play both original PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games. However, this was not present in the 3rd generation of the PlayStation 3, and the Nintendo Wii could play Nintendo GameCube games. The 7th generation of consoles were a huge success. Even the Nintendo Wii was far more successful than its predecessor, the Nintendo GameCube. However, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 were better when it came to graphics power, and more games were developed for them as a result, while less demanding titles were offered to the Wii users, and some popular titles such as Need for Speed and Sonic Unleashed were ported over to the Wii around the same time they were released for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and some games were also available on the PlayStation 2, even when the newer generations had just come out. However, it would not take long before game developers fully moved away from the 6th generation of consoles, and fully focus on the latest and greatest, because that's how things have always been, even in the tech industry. The Nintendo Wii was amongst the first 7th generation console to be discontinued, in 2013, but was discontinued earlier in some regions. The Xbox 360 was discontinued worldwide on April 20, 2016. The PlayStation 3 was also discontinued in early to late 2016, though this varies depending on specific regions, but worldwide production and sale ceased in early 2017, and by this time, the newer 8th generation consoles were starting to become the norm, and game developers, like always, quickly left the older generation to sit in the dust and fade away. However, these older consoles retain retro value for both the games and the aesthetics of the console. You can find a lot of refurbished or pre-owned consoles, as well as buy games for them, and emulators for these older consoles also exist to provide users a free alternative to buying the real console, which is not always necessary but can sometimes be better, especially if you already have so many games for an older console. With all this out of the way, we will now jump to the conclusion of, are 7th generation consoles worth buying in 2023 and beyond? If you like older games, and appreciate them, then yes, a 7th generation console could definitely be worth it. However, most of you will want the latest and greatest titles which will have far better graphics, physics, etc. So if this is the case, then no, it is not worth it to buy a 7th gen console. The only reason these are being sold on eBay and other online retailers is that there is a niche market for those who like older games and who want the real console instead of an emulator. Consoles are convenient and easy to use. An emulator requires some downloading of special files and ROMs, which can be daunting or tricky for less tech-savvy people who cannot even send an email, and a console is great if you want to play with multiple people, as opposed to just one on a PC. So this is another reason those older consoles are still around and kicking. In fact, a lot of them retail for a lot less than what they did when they were new, and if you really want one, it's probably advisable to stick with the newer generations, as they can often play older games through backwards compatibility. Sadly, not all games will work through this layer. Some games will only work on the console they are designed for. Take the original Forza Motorsport for example. This is a 2005 racing game that was only ever released for Xbox, and did not work on the Xbox 360's backwards compatibility layer, until it was added later on. So this goes to show you that backwards compatibility, much like in the world of operating systems and PCs, cannot always work. Anyway, that will now do it for this video. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you next video. Bye for now.